Welcome, my flock. Knitted Anus here. Are you guys ready to get radicalized against the CIA and the military-industrial complex? Y'all ever heard of a little country called Guatemala or a leader named Jacobo Arbenz? June 1952, Arbenz, who was democratically elected, pushed a sweeping land reform bill through his nation's legislation aimed at redistributing the heavily rural country's farm acreage, 70% of which was in the hands of 2% of the landowners. Among the properties expropriated in the new law were from United Fruit. United Fruit ran Guatemala less like a banana republic than a banana colony. United Fruit not only owned huge plantations, but almost every mile of railroad track in the country. United Fruit's man in Guatemala thought of the peasants as nothing more than beasts of burden. That's sweet. This demonic, socialist, communist Jacobo Arbenz, he probably just stole all the land from United Fruit, didn't he? Arbenz's government only expropriated acreage from United Fruit's holdings that were not under cultivation, and it offered the multinational corporation fair compensation for the seized. Okay, screw United Fruit. Why would America go do anything for them? The powerful influence of the United Fruit Company could be felt throughout Washington, where the company had high-placed friends and stockholders at both parties. The president's friend and undersecretary of the state was seeking an executive position with the company, Walter Beetle Smith. Henry Cabot argued a case against Arbenz as Eisenhower's UN ambassador. He belonged to one of the blue-blooded Boston families whose fortunes were long entwined with the banana company. Another one, John Moore Cabot, in charge of Latin affairs in the State Department. His brother was a former chief exec. Ann Whitman was connected to the United Fruit. Her husband was the company's public relations director. And you know who else is there. Say it. Who's there? The Dulles brothers. So before the Dulles brothers decided to run America and just get us into endless war, guess what? They were lawyers. Of course they were. For Sullivan and Cromwell for World War II. And besides working with the Nazis and stuff, we'll talk about that later, United Fruit was their first client at Sullivan and Cromwell. It's all just so perfect, guys. Please, Eisenhower, we gotta go to war with Guatemala because of our bananas. I don't want to just steal your nanners, but... United Fruit's cries of alarm about Arbenz's land reform soon produced the same results that Anglo-American oil protestations did in Iran. Eisenhower Dulles administration moved swiftly to isolate Guatemala, labeling it a Soviet beachhead in the hemisphere. So what'd they do, guys? Did they just go in and shoot Arbenz? No. First, you give them money. Ambassador Puerfoy, Dulles brothers' handpicked man in Guatemala, tried to bribe Arbenz to fall in line, offering him $2 million to abort his land reforms. And we know what our boy Arbenz said. He said, "Fuck you. Nah." So they physically threatened him, of course. And Arbenz said, "Bring it, son." And then the Dulles brothers started Dullesing. And the CIA started CIAing. And they hired a former furniture salesman to do an armed coup against Arbenz while they were simultaneously sporadically bombing on the capital, carried out by CIA pilots, which sowed panic among the population. And then they paid commanders in the army thousands of dollars to be shills and to bail on Arbenz. So then Arbenz realized that no one could be trusted, and the CIA's stupid false flag coup started getting crazy, so Arbenz had to flee. And then as Arbenz was fleeing for exile, do you think that Dulles just let him go and, have dignity? Nope, they showered him with abuse. Assassin, thief, piece of shit. And then luckily he was smart enough to take a decoy car, because the decoy car ended up blowing up. Thank God, because the CIA's dumb as hell. And then insult to injury. They literally made him strip in front of the press at the foot of the plane before he got on to make sure he wasn't sneaking money out. It's crazy. But what else are you supposed to do when your boy from Yale, from the United Fruit, he has all the bananas? He's like, "Man, I gotta keep these bananas cheap, bro. You gotta do a coup." The CIA was afraid of him, an educated, articulate reformer who had stood up to the local elite and the U.S. government. He was a big threat to these powerful interests. But look, man, how else are you supposed to treat a person who thinks that it's okay for poor people to have anything and, not suffer? It's bullshit, dude. Then even after they exiled him, they just tortured him for the rest of his life. Any country that allowed him to come in, they would blockade. So he jumped around to different countries until literally the only country that would allow him to stay and wouldn't care about the consequences of America was Russia. And they loved that he moved to Russia. Arbenz had only ended up in Russia because no other country wanted him. He reached out to every leader in Latin America, but the State Department had made it clear that any nation that took in the top men from the Arbenz government would incur Washington's wrath. So this all was like a year after the Iran coup, and this is basically what set the stage for Allen Dulles to control the rest of foreign policy forever. This was their blueprint that they used all the time. If Allen Dulles could use this exact blueprint every day, he would. And he tried. He used it for so many different countries. And once you get rid of the leader, you gotta cleanse the entire population, you know? So the CIA gets another death militias to purge Guatemala of leftist elements. His army rounded up some 4,000 suspected communists, interrogated them, killed them. Awesome. After the Eisenhower administration overthrew Jacobo Arbenz, U.S. officials boasted that they would turn Guatemala into a showcase for democracy. It became instead a bottomless well of sorrow. Boy, did it ever. I don't think I can begin to describe to you how, like, devastating the Dulles brothers were for our lives even. Like, this stuff still has ripple effects, you know? Everyone is still affected by these choices made back in the day by, like, two guys. Like, all this is there's a president and then there's, like, 6 people standing around him, all trying to convince him to go to war. And all it takes is having that one person say no. So, I don't know. I think we can fix this stuff. But, you know, we got a lot to go up against. I don't know what else we expect from a guy who literally thinks that United States' responsibility is to take a dominant role in global affairs, exerting upon the world the full impact of our influence for our purposes as we see fit and by such means as we see fit. We were going to replace Britain as the new world empire. The American century is what those fucking clowns believed in. We're going to replace Britain as the new world empire, not by holding overseas territories as in the passing colonial era, but by flexing our military, commercial, and cultural strength. Are the pieces starting to line up, guys? You should follow, or I'm going to tell everyone that you cooed Guatemala.